The next part of speech I'm going to go through are verbs. Now, this part of speech is oftentimes understood as, action verbs. But that's only one part of the picture. Verbs also involve linking verbs and helping verbs. And one little warning I want to give you beforehand, verbs can get quite confusing at times. You might need to go through this video more than once. What I've seen is that many students go through this one time, I'll explain it to them one time, and then they forget the next day because it's a little more complicated than it first appears. If you need to go through this video more than once, I would encourage you to do so. Maybe go through it again tomorrow or the day after to make sure you get this part of speech down, because it is more complicated than the other parts of speech. Okay? So the first part of it is that verbs can be actions. But this is partly true, but also entirely incomplete and creates an enormous amount of confusion. With actions, they are things you do. I don't think I've ever had a student not understand that when they've started the class with me. They are things like to run, to jump, to sing, to dance, to read, and I could go on all day, and I'm sure you could too. There are tens of thousands of action verbs, and most students already understand that. So verbs can be actions. That's undeniably true and pretty straightforward. Where the confusion starts is when we get to the other type of verb, which are linking verbs. Now, many students have heard of these, but they often get them confused with helping verbs. They are an entirely different type of verb, and you're going to see that here. Now, what linking verbs do is they take a subject and they link it up to a description. The logic behind a linking verb is not things you do, but A equals B. Linking verbs have a subject, and they link that subject up to a description. They are not that description, they are not the subject, they are the link between it. And then with linking verbs, the important thing to understand is there's a limited list of them. Some books I've seen limit it down to 10 linking verbs, some go up to around 16. I've put together about 14 of them that I think are the most common. The important thing to keep in mind is they always do that process of linking something together, a subject up with a description. Now, the most common linking verb is the verb to be. The verb to be comes in the form of am, is, are, was, were. I am cold. He is happy. She was, late for the movie, whichever. That's the most common verb in the English language, and it's not an action verb. In fact, it can never be an action verb. So if you look at these and go, well, there's a lot more action verbs, so I'm not going to worry about the linking, that would be a big mistake. Because the linking verbs, even though they're a limited list, they are used far more often than any action verb, than any of them. The verb to be is by far the most commonly used verb in the English language. None of the action verbs are even close. Okay? But the rest of the linking list, and you don't need to memorize the linking list, you just need to be very, very familiar with it. What I would say is look it over, get familiar with it one day, give yourself a day or two, look it over again, refamiliarize yourself, allow yourself to forget, and then reintroduce it to yourself. Do that over the course of a few days. Okay? But to be, to feel, to become, to seem, those four are always linking verbs. Whenever you see them, they're always linking verbs. But then there's other ones, like to smell, to sound, to taste, to grow, to act, to appear, to look, to turn, to remain, to get. Now, those can be a little bit confusing because those could be either linking verbs or they could be action verbs. They cannot be both. Once they're used in a sentence, they must be either linking verbs or action verbs. In the following video, the one after this one, I'm going to go more into depth on that, and I'll demonstrate it to you more in depth. For now, you need to understand that action verbs are entirely distinct from linking verbs. You cannot have the verb be both an action and a linking verb. It must be one or it must be the other. And action verbs and linking verbs are always going to be the main verb. And this is absolutely essential to understanding verbs. They're going to function as a main verb, But what they are, what their form is either as an action or as a linking. And these are always the main verbs, either action or linking. And with these, they must decide, am I an action or a linking verb? If you're not on the linking list, you can't be a linking verb. So to run isn't on the linking list. It cannot be a linking verb. To jump is not on the linking list. It can't do it. To sing, can't do it. To dance, can't go over there. Okay? To be, to feel, to become, to seem, those are always linking verbs. Always linking verbs. The rest of them could be one or the other. You need to know the logic of A equals B to test them to find out. And again, in the following video, the next one after this one, I'll go more into that. But just understand that the main verb in the sentence is always, always either an action verb or a linking verb. And the logic behind them works very differently. So you don't want to confuse them. And if you think that all verbs are actions, well, the most commonly used verbs in the English language are linking verbs, and there is no action in them, none at all. Okay? So then you run into a little bit of a complication with you, then you have helping verbs. Helping verbs help out either action verbs or they help out linking verbs. The main verb is always either an action or a linking verb. And that's always the last verb in the verb phrase. So a verb phrase can be as short as one word or as long as 4 words. The main one is always the last one in the list. And that last one will be an action or a linking. The verbs before it will always be helping verbs. You could have one helping verb helping out a linking verb. You could have 2 helping verbs helping out a linking verb. You could have 3 helping verbs helping out a linking verb. You can stack helping verbs in front of action or in front of linking. Okay? So understand that logic, that helping verbs always help out either action or they help out linking. The main verb is this one or that one. Where people often get confused is they think that a linking verb is helping out an action verb. They never, ever, ever do that. Linking verbs will never help out an action verb. They don't do that. The main verb is this one or that one. Helping verbs help out action or they help out linking. Where the confusion happens is because the most common helping verb is the verb to be. Others are like to have. So some of the helping verbs actually cross over into some of the linking verbs. How do you tell the difference? Well, if it's in the position of the main verb, it's a linking verb. If it's in the position of a helping verb, then it's helping out either an action or it's helping out a linking. And again, if that's confusing, I'm going to go over it in more detail with the next video, so you can just go through it one more time. Okay? So other helping verbs are like to have, would, could, should, those kind of verbs. Must. Those verbs help out action verbs or they help out linking. Okay? The main verb is either action or linking, not both. It can be one or the other. A common action verb is a verb like ran. And again, everybody who comes in knows this already, knows an example such as this one. Jerry ran home. That doesn't create any confusion. Jerry is the subject. What did he do? He ran and he ran home. That gets into the where he did, but the ran is the verb. That doesn't create any issues. To see an example of a linking verb, you could look at the sentence, Alicia was happy. Alicia is your subject, was is your verb, and that's your full verb. That's the main verb. It's only one verb. And it links up Alicia to happy. Happy is not the verb. This is very important to understand. Happy, in fact, describes Alicia. That's what it does. It's not part of the verb. It describes Alicia, and that's what linking verbs do. They link up the subject with the description. Alicia didn't do anything. When I said Alicia was happy, she didn't do anything at all. Instead, what I've done with that sentence is just describe her. That's what linking verbs do. And I could, for example, say Alicia feels happy, became happy, seems happy. I could put in a number of these other linking verbs and it would still work. And in all cases, it's an A equals B situation. No action. If I say Alicia feels happy, she didn't do anything. I'm describing how she is. It's her state of being. You may have heard linking verbs called state of being verbs. That's what they're often described as. That's sometimes a little abstract definition. The important thing to keep in mind is that they describe what something is. A equals B. Okay? So helping verbs always help out either action or linking. They're never the main verb. The main verb is either the action or the linking verb, and then you stack the helping in front of it. Okay? With the next video, I'm going to go more into this, and I'm going to give you more examples to refresh it. So make certain you understand verbs and you understand this logic. It usually requires going through this more than once. Don't let yourself get frustrated. Don't let yourself get confused. If you can already follow this, great. If you can't, take a little more time, get it down, you will. Okay? Take care.